I threw myself a birthday party just to see who'd show up. What happened that night changed everything I thought I knew about family, love, and who deserves a second chance. I didn't throw myself a birthday party because I love celebrations. I did it because I was tired of pretending I didn't care. My name is James. I'm 30, living alone in a narrow apartment above a laundromat in Port Raleigh, a city where the weather forgets the seasons and people forget each other faster. This year, I decided to gamble not on gifts or cake, but on the brittle hope that my family might remember I was still alive. I rented a snug backroom in a dim-lit bar tucked behind an antique shop on 9th and Marley. Nothing grand, just soft amber lights strung like apologies, a foldable table with a velvet red cake, and a handful of childhood photos I taped to the wall like proof of a forgotten life. Me on a swing. Me holding George's hand. Me laughing beside Mom before she turned into someone else. A visual whisper, I was here once. I mattered. I invited them all. Mom. Jason, her second husband, the one with the icy handshake. My half-siblings, George and Edward. I wrote out each card in handwriting so careful it bordered on fragile. I even included directions. That night, I showed up an hour early. Wore the blue dress Mom used to say brought out my eyes back when she noticed things like that. I picked a seat at the edge of the room, just close enough to the light to feel seen, but not exposed. At 7 p.m, I checked my phone. Nothing. No messages. No calls. Not even a missed emoji. By 8 o'clock, the cake was still untouched, flawless, like it belonged to someone else's party. The thank you cards sat stacked and sealed. I sipped water slowly, carefully, as if it were wine. I tried not to notice the eyes around me or whether anyone noticed me at all. The bartender, a kind-eyed stranger with an accent I couldn't place, poured me a free glass of plum wine. Maybe they're just running late, he offered. I nodded, forced a smile, brittle and brief. But when the clock struck 9 and the door remained closed, that smile collapsed like wet paper. No one was coming. I sliced the cake myself. Posted a fake birthday photo online. Hashtagged it with a smile that didn't reach the caption. I took a bite of the red velvet, not because I wanted it, but because I didn't want it to look abandoned. I chewed slowly, eyes lowered, pretending I was somewhere else. The lights around me blurred like a dream I couldn't wake from. At 10 p.m, I packed the cake back into its box, left a tip large enough to compensate for the pity in the bartender's eyes, and walked into the night. The city outside was quiet, almost respectful. My heels clicked against the pavement, steady and sharp, a metronome to the ache behind my ribs. I came home to silence. No balloons, no calls, no last-minute apologies. Just me, my reflection in the hallway mirror, and the dull thud of my heart. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, not crying. Just waiting for the hurt to harden into something else. Anger would have been easier. But it wasn't anger that stayed with me, it was the cruel shape of hope curled inside me like a fist. 1 week later, in the middle of a work call, my phone lit up with a group message. Mom. Hey family. Jason's 55th is around the corner. We're booking Pacific Shores Resort, $1,200 per person. Send it by Friday, love you all. I stared at the screen. Read it again. Then again. No mention of me. No apology. Just an invoice with glitter and fake affection. George replied within seconds. George? Just send it, Mom. So excited. Then Edward. Edward. All paid. Can't wait. I didn't feel hurt anymore. I didn't even feel angry. Just done. With mechanical calm, I opened my payment app and sent them exactly $1. Captioned it with a single note. Happy birthday. Then I locked my front door, changed every password tied to our old joint accounts, and sat at the kitchen table. For the first time in years, I exhaled like I meant it. I blocked them one by one. Mom. Jason. George. Edward. With each tap on block contact, something inside me loosened, like cutting threads from a marionette I no longer wanted to be. I gave no explanation. They didn't deserve one. That night, I called a locksmith. Not because I feared them, but because I knew my mother. To her, silence was an invitation. And she never turned one down. 2 days later, I was in my favorite coffee shop, the one with worn sofas and bad jazz, when my phone buzzed. Suspicious login attempt from unknown device. My throat tightened. I opened the banking app with fingers that refused to stay still. Someone had tried to access the old joint account, the one I'd used to pay Edward's tuition, George's fairy tale wedding, even that overpriced bathroom remodel Mom insisted would help Jason's back. I called the bank. Freeze everything. Move all funds to my personal account. New verification on everything, I said, voice sharp as glass. Later that night, the unknown numbers started calling. I didn't answer. Then the messages arrived. What the hell are you doing? Why change the locks? Why block me? And you froze the account. Call me back. I didn't. Because some silences aren't empty, they're earned. I turned off my phone. I thought silence would be enough, that if I cut the power to the chaos it would fizzle out. But I had underestimated her. My mother never gave up a spotlight without clawing at the curtains. She knew how to twist truth like wet fabric, knew how to cry without tears and convince strangers she was the one left bleeding. When her grip slipped, she didn't let go, she rewrote the script. That Friday night, I was halfway through a movie when the doorbell erupted, fast, forceful, like an alarm. I glanced at the security screen. 2 officers stood outside. One older, face carved from granite. The other young, notebook in hand, shifting his weight like he didn't want to be there. I cracked the door just enough to see their faces. "Can I help you?" The tall one stepped forward. "Are you James?" I nodded slowly, unease coiling in my stomach. "We received a report. Your family's concerned you may be mentally unstable, possibly at risk of self-harm." I blinked. For a moment, all I could hear was the blood pounding in my ears. "Missing?" I repeated. The chill that washed over me was slow, deliberate, like ice in the lungs. "I'm not missing. I just stopped talking to some people. I'm working. I'm healthy. I'm not a danger to myself." The younger officer studied me carefully. "Do you have anyone who can verify that?" I handed him my phone, opened my remote work app, and tapped into the live meeting. A mosaic of faces on Zoom flickered across the screen. "I've been on back-to-back calls all day. Ask anyone at the firm." The older one scribbled something. "Your family says they haven't heard from you and are worried." I gave a short, bitter smile. I blocked them. After they tried to access my bank account and ignored my birthday, then had the nerve to send me a bill for Jason's resort party. The officers exchanged a look. "We don't get involved in family disputes," the younger one said. "But if you feel harassed, you can pursue a restraining order." I nodded once. "If they reach out again, I will." They left without pressing further. When the door clicked shut, I stood motionless, staring at the wood grain like it might reveal something deeper. I never thought I'd be the subject of a wellness check. Not because I was in danger, but because someone couldn't stand losing control. I sat on the edge of the bed, the room dim except for the soft glow from my laptop. My phone buzzed again and again. Unknown numbers. "James, open the door. I'm here. You can't treat your family like this. Jason's losing it. He says you've gone insane." I stared at the messages. My hands didn't shake this time. I wasn't the quiet girl pressed behind a door anymore. I was the one holding it shut. By Saturday, noon sunlight spilled into the apartment as I brewed my coffee, strong, bitter, unapologetic. Then came the pounding. Not a knock. Not a request. A demand. I moved slowly to the security screen. There they were, all 3 of them. Mom, Jason, and George. My mother's jaw was set, lips pressed so tightly they looked bloodless. Her eyes scanned the door like it had personally betrayed her. Jason stood like a statue, arms folded across his chest, jaw twitching. And George, fingers dancing across her phone, likely recording, rehearsing the story she'd tell next. I didn't open the door. Instead, I pressed the speaker. "What do you want, Mom?" Her voice sliced through the mic. "Open the door. This has gone on long enough. We need to talk." "About what?" "About how you tried to break into my account. Or how I was good enough to pay for Jason's party but not even worth a text on my birthday." Jason's voice cut in, thick with practiced disappointment. "You're being childish. We're here because we care, James. Don't twist this." I laughed, sharp and hollow. "Right? Caring. That's why you called the police instead of picking up a phone." George stepped forward, banging her palm on the door. "You think you're a victim now? Ignoring us like we're strangers? Who do you think you are?" I took a slow breath, set my coffee down, and opened the door. Just enough to face them. Not enough to invite them in. "What do you want?" I asked, voice cold and flat, honed like a blade. My mother's eyes searched mine, theatrics already rising in her throat. "We're family," she said, voice trembling with manufactured ache. "You're treating me like a stranger. I don't even recognize who you are anymore." I met her gaze without blinking. "Maybe you never did." A silence hung between us, taut and loaded. "You know what hurts the most?" I said softly, letting the weight fall in my voice. "Not that you forgot my birthday, but that I was only ever worth something when you needed a check signed." Jason's face flushed. He stepped forward. "We raised you, James. Fed you. Got you through school. And now this is how you repay us? You block everyone and tear the family apart?" Jason's voice thundered in the narrow hallway, but I barely flinched. I stared at him, detached, like I was watching a movie I'd seen too many times to care how it ended. "Raised me? Educated me?" My voice came out quiet, level, and cold. "I started working at 16. Bought my own books, earned my own scholarships, paid off every student loan. I saved for my first car, took night shifts, scraped every dime together just to stay ahead. What did you really give me, Jason, besides the bare minimum and a sense of guilt I was trained to carry like a birthright?" Mom's mask slipped then. "You think money defines love?" she snapped. "What about the nights I stayed up sick with worry? The loans I took just to buy Christmas gifts? What about that, James? Or is that nothing to you now? I felt the burn in my chest turn to something sharper. Something surgical. This isn't about a party, Mom. It's about years of silence and survival. Every time I had anything, money, time, peace, it just happened that someone needed to borrow it. I took a step forward, letting the truth fall like stones. I paid $30,000 for George's wedding. And you know what I got in return? Silence. Not even a thank you card. Mom's face twisted. George jumped in, voice laced with venom. You always act like some martyr. You have money but treat it like a weapon. You're not the only one who's struggled. I turned to her, unblinking. You're right. We all struggled. But I was the only one who got used and then guilt into calling it family. Jason stepped in, trying for calm. We just want to move past this. Go back to how things were. A family can't fall apart over one misunderstanding. My hand tightened on the doorframe. This isn't a misunderstanding. It's math. Years of giving from one direction and taking from the other. I'm not here to negotiate anymore. My voice cracked, but I didn't let it break. I'm done being your walking ATM. My mother's face turned crimson. Her voice trembled with rage now, not grief. Fine. You want out? You've got it. But don't come crawling back when you realize no one else wants you. I looked her dead in the eye. If I have to choose between being alone or being used, I choose alone. She opened her mouth to speak, but Jason's hand shot out and pulled her back. George glared at me like I'd just spit on sacred ground and turned away. I didn't flinch. I didn't stammer. I closed the door, calm, firm, final. A clean break. A full stop. From inside, I heard the muffled shuffle of shoes, the slamming of the car door, then nothing. But it didn't feel empty. It felt like breathing. For the first time in years, I inhaled without the weight of invisible chains. I stood still for a long time, one hand pressed to my chest. There was no ache, no tremble, just clarity. 2 days later, a new wound arrived dressed as a notification. A refinancing request has been submitted for your shared property. My stomach clenched. I clicked through, heart pounding. The Lakewood Drive house. The one in the Lake Travis area. The one I had co-signed 6 years ago when Mom called sobbing, saying they were days from eviction. The house listed in both our names. Back then, I told myself, you're in a better place. Help her. That's what good daughters do. I never imagined they'd try to refinance without even telling me. This wasn't just selfish. It was strategic. A move. My chest felt tight, like I'd just been sucker punched by someone I let too close. I didn't wait to spiral. I called Jacob, my attorney from the real estate days. She was sharp as a scalpel and even less sentimental. Jacob, they're trying to refinance the house. I didn't authorize it. Block it immediately. She didn't even hesitate. Send me the original mortgage, the title, and any correspondence. I'll freeze any transactional authority linked to your name. But I wasn't done. I opened my laptop and clicked into a folder I hadn't touched in years, the one marked personal, family support. I drafted a new email. Subject, request for financial audit, family contributions, last 6 years. Attached was a list. Just what I remembered off the top of my head. Down payment on the house, Mom and Jason's $62,000. Jason's pickup truck loan, $18,500. George's gambling debt bailout, $27,000. Edward's tuition, 4 years, $39,800. Emergency medical aid during Mom's illness, 2021, $55,200. Borrowed and forgotten overtime, $12,000. Total, $214,500. I asked my accountant to cross-check the figures, attach receipts and transaction records, and prepare a detailed spreadsheet broken down by year and category. I didn't want apologies anymore. I wanted data. I wanted a ledger. I wanted the truth laid bare in numbers because numbers don't lie. And they don't rewrite history to protect the guilty. 3 days later, the audit arrived. It was meticulous, rows of transactions, timelines, categories, proof. My life reduced to cells and digits. I sat at my kitchen table, fingers grazing the edge of the spreadsheet. They trembled not from fear or guilt, but from the slow, searing realization. I had mistaken obligation for love. And love, as it turned out, had always come with a subtotal. I reopened the family group chat for the first time since blocking them. Attached the spreadsheet. Typed 5 words. I want it all back. And hit send. The reaction came fast like a match to gasoline. Missed calls lit up my phone. First from Mom. Then from George. Then Edward. George? Are you insane? Who keeps receipts on their own family? Edward. I'm working 2 side jobs just to eat. You want me to sell blood now? Jason. You're destroying this family. Your mother hasn't slept in days. I didn't reply. I forwarded everything to Jacob. If they can't buy out my share of the house, I want to withdraw. Force a sale. She called within 10 minutes, voice steady but wary. You sure about this? Once we initiate a forced sale, the house goes on the market. They either pay you or lose everything. There's no going back from this. I stared at the spreadsheet. The hard math of it all. The years of yes. The quiet sacrifices. I'm not starting a war, Jacob. I'm restoring balance. Let them be outraged. Let them perform. But this is mine to claim. That same afternoon, her office sent the official notice. To Miss Cynthia and Mr. Jason. Property at 1175 Shoreline Drive. Notice of capital withdrawal by co-owner, James. If no agreement is reached within 14 days, proceedings for a court-mandated sale will begin. The backlash was immediate. George? You're really going to put Mom back in that dumpy apartment? You're not cold, you're ice. I read it. Deleted it. Cold? I'd wired money every month for 5 years without anyone ever asking how I was sleeping at night. Now that the money had a number, suddenly I was the villain. That evening, a new message arrived. This one gave me pause. Mom. James, if you go through with this, we'll lose everything. The house will be gone. I don't know where I'll go. Are you really this heartless? I stared at her words for a long time. Heartless? No. Clear-eyed. I set the phone down. Because I knew the truth, if I didn't hold this line, I'd fall right back into that familiar role, the quiet daughter, the reliable one, always bleeding silently to keep the peace. But silence had a cost. And I was done paying. A full week passed. No messages. No calls. No tantrums. No fake apologies. Just silence. But it wasn't surrender. It felt tactical, a pause, not a retreat. The calm before the storm. And then it arrived. Monday afternoon, I received an email from Jacob. Your family has agreed to sell the house. It's listed as a fast sale property. But they're already stalling when it comes to releasing your share of the proceeds. I responded with just 2 words. Stay close. 3 days later, a number I hadn't seen in years flashed across my screen. Aunt Angela. I picked up. Her voice was soft, too soft. Careful, like she was walking barefoot over glass. James, your mom called me crying. She said you're throwing the whole family out onto the street. I'm not judging, she's in pieces. Is it true? That you're demanding hundreds of thousands from them? I could hear the doubt in her voice, the way guilt weaponized pity. I didn't explain. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't owe anyone another performance. People believe the version of the story that suits them, I said calmly, pressing one hand to my sternum, grounding myself. I'm not asking for revenge. I'm asking for what I gave. They can sell the house, the cars, the jewelry, whatever they bought with my money. That's not cruelty. That's balance. She paused, then hung up. No more questions. 2 weeks later, the house was listed. A 2-story, 3-bedroom with a wooden deck, the same one that once hosted 4th of July barbecues and awkward family photos. Now posted online as a fast sale due to financial restructuring, listed below market just to outrun the debt. I looked at the photos. Felt nothing. No grief. No vindication. Just distance, clean and quiet, like space between stars. Then they started liquidating. Jason's Ford Explorer sold for 15 grand. Mom's sedan popped up on Facebook Marketplace with a caption about downsizing. No mention of collapse. No trace of desperation. Just the same old performance sanitized for public sympathy. And then came the jewelry. The white gold necklace Mom wore for years, once declared a wedding memento, appeared under a harsh, fluorescent light in a photo from Jacob's office. Beside it, the sapphire earrings I'd given her after my first real promotion. I had picked them out carefully. Back then, I believed that a milestone wasn't complete until it was shared. They were part of a collection inventory sent by the broker, proof that the family was trying to make payment. Proof that emotion could be itemized, boxed, and sold. Then came the first wire, $10,000. A week later, another $5,000. I said nothing. Didn't acknowledge the transactions, didn't reach out. But Jacob did. She issued a formal collection letter, curt, final. If the remaining balance is not delivered within 72 hours, we proceed with the forced sale. No further negotiation. The next morning, the rest arrived. $7,200. Total, $22,200. Exactly what I had asked for to the dollar. Not a penny more. Not a whisper of remorse. Just a transfer notice. I stared at the cold, blue-lit line on my banking screen. Transfer received. 10 years of silent giving, of stretching myself into the shape they needed, compact, compliant, convenient, had finally collapsed into a single, emotionless transaction. That same afternoon, I got the final update. The house had been vacated. According to Jacob, my mother had failed to qualify for a lease, low credit, no savings, no guarantor. Jason, it turned out, had lost his job 3 months ago and kept it quiet. George and Edward had both moved in with their respective partners. Neither offered to take in Mom. No tearful reunions. No offers of shelter. The family I was told never abandoned their own had vanished the moment I withdrew my utility. Whispers floated back to me, something about the old RV Jason had once been converting for retirement travel. A side project turned last resort. Maybe now it was their home. That evening, a message lit up my phone. George? You happy now? Mom's curled up in a freezing van with no heater. You call that justice? I stared at it for a while. Not because it stung, but because I knew that voice too well, guilt dressed as righteousness, shame spun into accusation. They hadn't changed. They were just scared now that the safety net had been rolled up and tucked away. I didn't respond. I don't live in that cycle anymore. Instead, I stepped outside and walked along the lake trail behind my apartment. The December air was crisp in Austin, cutting but clean. My phone stayed behind. My thoughts didn't chase ghosts. I felt no anger. No triumph. Just something slower. Quieter. Peace. 4 months passed. Not a word from anyone. No messages. No sob stories. No manipulations masked as concern. Silence settled around me, not as a threat, but a companion. Unfamiliar, yes, but not unwelcome. Life got still. Still enough to breathe. And then, one Friday evening, a coworker invited me bowling. Normally, I would have declined. Fluorescent lights, loud laughter, strangers spilling beer, all things I avoided. But that night, I said yes. Maybe to prove something. Maybe to feel the shape of my life now that it was truly mine. We took a lane near the back. Laughter echoed. Neon lights skimmed across the polished floor in fractured colors. I bowled a few frames, not well, but not terribly. The sound of pins crashing was oddly soothing. Then it was my coworker's turn. I turned my head casually and froze. 2 lanes over, a man was bending to lift a dark green bowling ball. He moved slower than I remembered. Shoulders thinner. Hair streaked with silver. His first roll veered off instantly, clattering into the gutter. He bent for another, and as he straightened, his eyes swept the room and landed on mine. He stopped. Recognition crashed into his expression like a wave hitting stone. Jason. My stepfather. I stood, muscles tensing. My instinct was to leave, to vanish, but something in me stayed anchored. Don't look away. He walked toward me slowly, bowling shoes squeaking softly on the slick floor. Hazel, he said quietly. His voice hadn't aged. It still carried that slight tremble, but not from weakness. From calculation. I didn't speak. Didn't move. I didn't expect to see you here, he said, eyes flicking to the empty lane beside me. Mind if I play a frame? I said nothing. Just gestured to the attendant. The lane reset. He sat beside me. We didn't speak. The silence stretched, not awkward, but sharp like a tightrope between 2 cliffs. He rolled his first ball. Straight into the gutter. A soft, humorless laugh escaped him. There goes the last thing I used to be good at. I watched unmoved. He tried again. Another gutter. He sat back down. James, he said, quieter now. I didn't come here to ask for anything. Not this time. If this were the old me, maybe I would have. But I'm not here for that. He paused, looked at the pins, then back at me. I just wanted to say I know I messed up. Not just with you. With everything. I didn't answer. Because sometimes silence is louder than forgiveness. Sometimes it's the only language people like him understand. I turned to face him. Under the sweep of green neon, his face looked older than I remembered, creased, hollowed out in places even regret couldn't smooth. I used to think I was strong, he said quietly. A man. The head of the house. But when you started earning, growing, pulling away, I felt small. His voice faltered like something inside him finally cracked. I didn't know how to handle it. So I didn't try. I hid behind the role of stepfather. Used the word family to hold on to something that was never really mine. I sat with my elbows on my knees, watching him. You didn't just take money, I said, my tone low but steady. You took trust. You made dependency look like care. And you pulled my mother and siblings into that spiral until no one could see the difference between love and survival. He nodded. Slowly. Shame spreading over his face like dusk. No apology could fix it. I know that. But I need to say it anyway. I'm sorry. I should have told you long ago. I was proud of you. There it was. Words I had needed to hear for nearly 2 decades, arriving far too late to heal anything, but just in time to mean something. I exhaled. I'm not coming back, I said softly. I'm not here to reconnect. I don't want to rebuild what was never whole. I just want to live the rest of my life without being reduced to what I can give. He didn't argue. Just extended his hand. It trembled slightly, a question with no guarantee of an answer. I stared at it for a moment, then placed mine in his. His hand was cold. Mine wasn't warm. But for once, the touch felt level. Human. 2 people standing on even ground. Not a giver and a taker. I rose to my feet, brushing off my jacket. I'm heading out. Enjoy your game. He nodded. Didn't ask me to stay. Outside, the night greeted me with stillness and air crisp enough to clear what lingered. I slid behind the wheel, closed the door, and just sat for a while. The streetlights rolled across the windshield as I drove. Soft ribbons of light slicing through memory. Each red light was a breath out. Me, unclenching, uncoiling. No one beside me asking if I was okay. No voicemail laced with desperation. No late-night messages that said, I don't know who else to call. But you. Just silence. And for the first time, it didn't sound like loneliness. It sounded like truth. When I got home, I opened the window. The breeze carried a trace of magnolia from the hedges below. The city, half asleep, offered no noise, no horns, no alarms. Just quiet human rhythm, the kind that comes from people who are living, not performing. I sat on the floor, back to the wall, hot tea in hand. In that moment, I didn't count the years I'd spent inside a trap disguised as duty. I didn't relive the sacrifices, the swallowed arguments, the invisible weight of being the good one. I just let myself be still, unclaimed, unbeholden. I used to think revenge would bring closure. But this wasn't revenge. This was escape. From the fiction of unconditional love that only flowed in one direction. From guilt dressed as affection. From tears and threats, spun sweet enough to melt boundaries. I opened my laptop, not to check my balance, but to look at the number and feel nothing except a sense of enough. I booked a trip, not to run but to begin. Place with no history, no roles to rehearse, no one to disappoint, just me, James. Not daughter, not savior, not the name on anyone's loan, just me. The next morning, I woke with no alarm, no obligations. I walked through the park, slow and light. A boy kicked a soccer ball into the air. A woman in headphones passed me, smiling at nothing. An old man released his dogs into the grass with a laugh like thunder. No one knew me. No one needed anything from me. And that feeling, it wasn't hollow. It was freedom. I don't know what comes next. Maybe one day my mother will write me a letter, fingers trembling, full of grief and longing. Maybe someone will tell me they've changed. Maybe they'll even mean it. But what I know unshakably is this: I am no longer their lifeline. I don't need forgiveness or permission. I made my choices, and I live with them. Steady, unflinching, and without regret. That night, as I passed a quiet secondhand shop, something caught my eye. A small wooden sign, faded but intact, hung in the display window. It read, "Freedom isn't walking away from someone. It's returning to yourself." I stood there for a moment. Then I smiled. No one had to see it.